this is working. It's been a minute, but have to try it. I don't know what it's showing up under either. Oh, darn it. Well, I'll have to edit that on the fly. Hopefully I can change it on the fly. My goodness. Well, that is wrong. The description is wrong. Doing things in the background. Yep. A lot of typing. Stand by. Right. Changed it on the fly. I'm not sure how it's all going to work out, but looks like the audio and everything's going, so the only way I can do it is just to test it. Get your feet in the water. Let me find the correct video. Hopefully this is working, and I'm gonna make sure the audio's on. I'm just a pitiful multi-ethnic boy here. 50-year-old boy. It's important to say that. Young people are always reminding me that I'm old, so I might as well just acknowledge it and accept it. All right. You're going to be listening to Rabbi Simon Jacobson. Hebrew word for soul. Turn on my main camera here. Hopefully things will work. I think so. I think it's working. So we're going to give this a go. And hopefully it works. And I can talk to those individuals that have been encouraging me to fire this up again in the recovery sobriety community, wanting me to put more content out there. I'm going to do it kind of in an what would you call it, in unedited ways. And so I'm going to, it's just going to be kind of like that one gentleman posted, I think it was like over an hour, some really smart dude up in the mountains. And he was talking about how, you know, people were saying that that's actually the preferred way is unedited, you know, the flashy stuff. I have all that on the editing software, but I'm putting this one out there this way. So we're going to watch together. So I'll be pausing many times to add some, just like the graphic says, you know, savage theology, savage sobriety. You know, the Declaration of Independence highlights us as merciless Indian savages, my mother's people. And I'm not going to stand here and say that I know everything, or sit here and say that I know everything, all things native, and what is the way of being behind it. I'm just one. I'm just one of many voices, and so. But yeah, I'm gonna share. We're gonna share together. Listen to our relative here and see what he has to say. Let me bring down the music here. All right.
The word soul in Hebrew is neshama. Neshama. It comes right in the beginning of the Bible in Genesis, where it says that after the sixth day of creation, God took a clump of clay of earth from the ground, shaped it into what would become a body, and then he imbued it with his breath, with divine breath. So therefore, in Hebrew, the word for soul and the word for breath are actually the same word. They're just pronounced differently. Neshama is soul. Neshima means breath. So when we breathe, physically breathe, and we inhale and exhale, it's exactly the same thing. As I mentioned, breath comes through our mouths, to our throats, into our lungs, fills up the lungs, which in turn gets oxygenated and then distributed through the blood into the body. And then we exhale the carbon dioxide and other elements that should be exhaled. And this
I like that. It's from our Hebrew relatives, our Jewish relatives, that we get the creation story where God breathed, and I'm a disciple of Jesus, also known as Yeshua. Actually, Yeshua, also known as Jesus. I like that. In the creation story, when man is created, he is formed out of the dust of the ground, or adum, of redness, the dirt of the ground. So the very first human could have been a redskin. Could have been darker complected, and I believe that that's the case. But when he formed him, he breathed. The Creator breathed the breath of life into man's nostrils, and so I like that this gentleman's talking about that. This rabbi's talking about that, and the reason why I'm doing this as my test is I'm really kind of doing a deep dive on what different people groups know and understand as soul, and I'll get into what and why I'm doing this deep dive.
process continues back and forth. As a matter of fact, it's called in the Kabbalistic literature a process from the book of Ezekiel of Rotzei Veshuv, tension and resolution, like the contraction expansion of the heart, the exhale and inhale of the breath.
Assalamu alaikum. This is an urgent appeal for the people of Yemen. The suffering in Yemen right.
And that's the constant flow of energy, that you have the two poles, and that's how you create energy. There's a certain tension, but then there's a resolution. And if you have the perfect balance, like a cardiogram, it looks like a wave. In the breath, the same idea. We inhale, and then we exhale. We inhale and exhale. On a spiritual level, it's exactly the same thing. We all need to have a measure of angst, not anxiety, angst. Animal bliss and too much serenity creates complacency and therefore no motivation.
Ooh, that's good. So, savage sobriety, how I understand things. So in Dakota Lakota way, I'm from the Sistine-Waptin Dakota Oyate. I come from a small community called Enemiswim Tokanua. In Dakota way, the elders teach us, the ancestors teach us that living out of balance, having too much of a good thing is actually living out of balance. Too much of a bad thing is living out of balance. So you want to live in balance. And that's what I'm hearing from him. That's what his words, his teaching are reminding me of my mother's people.
But we also need to have resolution. So we reach for something greater than ourselves, and then we integrate it. Essentially, if you think of breathing, that's what we do when we breathe. So the soul is like a flame Another analogy for it is a flame. A flame is constantly flickering. It's restless. So you need to feed that restlessness.
I love that. You know, we are little flames. I like that, the creator. I used to serve as a staff pastor, and then when the current place I'm serving, and we have ongoing seminary level training and courses and things like that. Uh, and one of the teachings is that God is the Father of heavenly lights. He is an all-consuming fire. And so, if we are His children, that means that we are little flames and we are little lights. And so, um, our relative, this rabbi, is reminding me of that. That's what came to mind.
To try to fight it by saying, I don't want to be restless, I just want to be a couch potato and do nothing, you're actually undermining your own very soul. So it's about respecting the mobility and the fluidity and the pulsating action of the soul's constant movement. And there is a way in a battle, because when you live in a material world, there is a certain tendency to be lazy, to get sedentary, and not have that movement. And what you're happening to do is like taking something that is by nature thrives on movement and trying to force it into a box. Imagine taking a human being and locking them in a box. What would we feel like? Not just the claustrophobia, it's just completely unnatural to us to be trapped. It's movement. Look at young children. Again, the purest version of ourselves, the young children. And what do you see?
In here.
You see constant movement. Take a child and try to hold them for too long. Yes, you need to cuddle them, you need to nurture them, hug them, embrace them. But a child by nature is constantly moving. And you don't want to stop that. Yes, you want to make sure they don't get into trouble. But you never want to stop that movement, because that's natural to them, because their soul is active. What happens is, as we continue to get involved in the material world, materialism actually numbs us. It starts to freeze up. It starts to harden. Not just
Ooh, that is so good. I was just sharing today at a group. So I deliver talks at a local treatment center, and I shared that when we're out of balance, we do these things to try to get ourselves back in balance, whatever they may be. He's talking about materialism here, but anything that tries to numb us, anything that tries to get us to not feel that we use as comfort we can consume too much, and that thing can become an addiction, or that behavior.
our arteries, but also our movements, the flexibility, the free abandon, the imagination, the dreaming. It begins to stunt it. It begins to limit it. So as we get older, the spirit, which is so free and like a flame, is now becoming confined. I'm not in the mood. I've been disappointed. I've had experienced disappointments. I don't want to try anything new. What you're really doing is undermining the very fiery nature of the pulsating energy of your soul.
This is why I love listening to our Hebrew and our Jewish relatives, is that some of this, and any other people group, tribe, nation, or tongue also. I get excited, because I think that in this time of human history, when we're trying to argue with one another, and we're arguing past one another, that this is the time that we need to listen to one another. So when he's talking about these things, it's just reminding me of things that are taught in treatment centers, that a lot of that 12-step programming, a lot of that treatment stuff, especially the stuff when it comes to 12 steps, that stuff was founded from the Oxford group. I believe they were Episcopal, or was it Methodist? Anyways, spiritual teachings, Judeo-Christian in nature. But if you go back even farther, the teachings are so good. There's just a level of sacredness there that I think that we, as disciples of Christ, and I unashamedly admit that, I acknowledge that in ancestral way, in Dakota Lakota way, one wasn't ashamed of their relationship with the Creator. They actually talked about it for the betterment of the community, for the betterment of the family, the community, the nation. And so that's what I do when I'm with my relatives at treatment centers, and that's what I do when I'm with my relatives that are fellow Christ followers, and that's what I do with my relatives that are native, non-native, wherever human beings are. I try to live in that way. And so listening to the Hebrew understanding of that, of what he's sharing here, I think it's good because, and maybe this is kind of where I need to share with why I'm doing this video. I share within the talks at this treatment center, a talk that I try to get my relatives that are struggling with addiction. I have 24 years of sobriety. I celebrated 24 years of sobriety on November 29th of this year, 2024. It wasn't easy. I took myself into, I got out of balance and it just got out of control. And I hit my bottom, and maybe in a future time I'll be able to share that. But so when he's saying these things and he's talking about a people, a way of being, and he's sharing this from their perspective, he's sharing this medicine, it's reminding me of how I'm related to them and how we're related to each other. And so I don't know if that's helpful, but uh, I think that now is a very good thing for us to be okay with learning from each other. Um, the, we're so divided in America. We're so divided in the world, and now is the time for us to listen to one another.
of your breath. So it's really good to keep in mind that your soul is your breath, and your breath is actually constantly moving. Would anyone consider, any normal person consider it to stop breathing for a moment?
Your soul is your breath. I like that. One of the things I share with individuals that are at treatment programs is I'll say that one of the easiest ways you can get connected to yourself and to get connected to the Creator is through your breath. Um, he breathed the breath of life through man's nostrils, and if we can just breathe and be present. And I tell them that I go to the YMCA and I sit in the steam shower, big steam room, and it's not a traditional Finnish style sauna, but it's a steam room. And I tell them that I go in there and I have to focus on my breath because it's so hot, 125 degrees steam coming on you. That doesn't feel good. And so I have to breathe through my nose and hold at the top and then exhale. I have to control that breathing because if I breathe in too fast, it just will burn. And so I share that with them, and it's the thing that gives me life. I'm able to sit in there. I wasn't able to handle 3 minutes at one point, and now I can work myself up to 10 to 20, and you might think, well, that's not really that bad. I mean, I've done them both. I've done the steam shower and I've done a traditional Finnish style sauna. So you go from steam shower where I think the temperatures are anywhere from 115 Fahrenheit to 225 Fahrenheit. And then traditional Finnish style saunas, those are 160, I think is the bottom of optimal temperature, to 210 Fahrenheit. And so I've been in them both. And when you're in that place, I have to control myself because you don't like being comfortable. I don't like being uncomfortable. And so rather than go out and try to catch my breath, I have to sit in there and control and breathe in through my nose, hold at the top, exhale through my nose, hold at the bottom, and keep doing that. Navy SEAL box breathing. It's called box breathing, but Navy SEALs have kind of made it popular as of late. So I just love. We're not even. I don't know how long I'll do this because this is actually a test video also because I'm going to test the audio. I'm going to test the video and see what it all looks like after the stream is done and just go from there. But man, not even 4.5 minutes in, and this guy has got me excited. This rabbi.
No, it's necessary. It's the breath of life, and that is the soul. So understanding who you are, that you're not a body that happens to have an energy force called a soul. You're a soul that's traveling through a vehicle called the body, is the most important foundation of it all. So the truth is,
Let me back that up real quick. I share that in the lectures too. I'll say that uh, within programming, this foundation, this treatment center, has brought me in to share with you the spiritual side, and um, I am a follower of Christ. However, to share with you the spiritual side also, not the religious side. I can talk about those things, but talk to you about how that applies to recovery. And him saying that, Rabbi saying that we are spirit. This is a vehicle. This body is a vehicle, and if we can get back to that and not make it that it's just the body, I think that we can be aware of that. I try to tell them that they need to connect with their soul. I always thought it was the other way around. You get connected to the Creator first. That happens first, but the Creator, via the greatest holy man of all time, Yehoshua, also known as Jesus, taught that in the story of the prodigal son um, that he came to himself. The prodigal son came to himself. Well, what does that mean? He's sitting in the pig pen. What does that mean? He came to himself. Did he appear? Did another clone of him show up and come to him? No, he came to himself. He came. His soul came to himself and reasoned. And it's just fascinating that that teaching I'm reminded of that teaching through the rabbi here. And Yehoshua, also known as Jesus, was known as the greatest rabbi according to the Christian tradition. So good stuff, man. 4 minutes 36 seconds, and I just love what the rabbi's saying here. Let's continue.
Is the most important foundation of it all. So the truth is, anyone who's in touch with that doesn't really need meditation, because that is the meditation. They're constantly in a meditative state, in a state of mindfulness, a state of presence. The problem becomes, especially when the Western world over-industrialized and over-commercialized things, so human beings became frustrated. And that's why many people went off to the fields, to the meadows, to the mountains, to the east, the journey to the east, to try to find something a little peaceful. And people talk about, it was so calming for me just to walk through a forest, just to look at nature. Whereas the rush hour, yes, it creates a type of high octane energy, but it's not completely natural to us. So we have this conflict. So meditation, I would probably suggest, with all its benefits, it also indicates, in a way, for a person who's in that type of contemplative state all the time, they are living on the soul level. They would say, the meditation, okay, so now the West is looking for some so-called some healing, some balm, some form of dealing with a hectic, tense, and anxious life that finance, money, rush hours, the drive for success, the competition.
Again, he's on point. I just heard this on a podcast. Gentleman was saying, I think a neuroscientist was saying that America is just stressed. Look at the mental health issues of our children. Look at the mental health issues of our men, and so on and on. And the gentleman's talking, and we're in the West. America's in the West, and a lot of you smarter people and very tremendously smart people, you guys know this, but for those of you that will watch this at a later time that are trying to get sober, we need to take that into consideration, that you're not alone. I think that people, a lot of times as addicts and alcoholics, we believe that we're the only ones that are struggling, but the reality is that human beings are going to use anything to medicate.
Demands of us. And in that sense, therefore, meditation became a very powerful force. But if you really go back to the original sources, you'll discover that it was really always the natural process. Yes, a newborn child is meditating in a certain way. Not that they sit down and they're in any position or they're thinking and concentrating, but their natural state is one where their natural being is expressing itself. So it's important to remember that meditation, healthy meditation, true meditation, is really taking you back to your natural being. And once you're there, it takes on a whole different meaning, because then you're becoming more soulful. That's what it comes down to become more soulful, to the point where you realize that's your natural self, like a fish in water. Once you feel like it's a fish in water, it's not an act. Okay, you know that over this weekend I'm going to meditate. I'm not suggesting and trying to criticize. Listen, people are busy in the evenings, take a break in the middle of the day, or weekends. At least that's a good beginning. But the real goal is to be essentially a meditative and a contemplative and a soulful human being. It should be a state of being where you're in touch with that inner self, and your body and all your material activities are just vehicles, channels, containers to allow that soulfulness to express itself. That's the ultimate goal. So if you really get to the Kabbalah of meditation, what you're coming to discover is the natural, essential self. And it's very refreshing because we essentially are living the opposite way. We think that our businesses, our work, the things we do, the things we produce are the real you, because that's where you're making your money from. That's how you survive. That's where you get your honor, your pride, your ego, respect.
And they can become masks, which is something that we really need to take into consideration, especially if you're somebody that has a relationship with the Creator. I think that it's very intriguing to me, anyway, that Yehoshua would call those that are trying to follow him, those that are trying to have a relationship with the spirit, with the spiritual realm, and he would call them hypocrites. And if there's hypocrisy that's within the spirituality channels, then that has to be true also. At least how I understand it, has to be true also of outside it too. And so I think that when we start doing these things, like he's talking about, we take on the identity. I am a hard worker. I'm a blue collar man, whatever, you name it. So, as addicts and alcoholics, we should realize that there's good things within different people groups, and we should at least take a moment or moments, like I'm doing right now, and listen to individuals. We want to be listened to and heard, right, and understood and seen. We should give that away first, and that's one of the things that is on the AA coin: unity, recovery, and service. And that's our way. We give service out by giving the energy of our ears away, and then we get it back. Give respect, and then you'll get it.
You survive. That's where you get your honor, your pride, your ego, respect. The truth is, the real you is really a very simple, innocent child, a soul, a breath.
Sleeplessness,
mood swings, brain fog,
vaginal dryness. We need to talk about menopause.
In the famous classic story, biblical story, when Elijah was looking for the essence of things.
I'm just a common multi-ethnic monster cookie here. I can't afford to be paying for the, what is it, YouTube Premium or whatever. I can't remember what it's called. I think they still hit you with ads though. I don't know. I'll have to look into it.
So first he heard a thunder, and he thought that was the essence of reality. That was the divine. Then came a strong wind, and he thought that was it. Then came a fire, a lightning, and he thought that was it. Until he realized the next step came what's called a very subtle, gentle voice, barely audible. But it gets drowned out by the rush hours, by the loud noises, the turbulence, and all the distractions of life. You have that voice right inside you.
So good. A lot of times in the summer, we'll go outside and I'll have the group face the east, and I'll have them close their eyes and I'll say a prayer. I'll talk to the Creator in their presence, because a lot of them either weren't taught how to pray or they've never been around people that pray. And I do a lot of explaining to them. I act kind of like an uncle or a brother that's telling them about what I'm learning in this thing. And so we'll all look to the east, and I'll have them close their eyes, and I'll say, what I want you to do is I want you to close your eyelids. You're going to see the sun is coming up. You're going to see it through your eyelids, because it's the greatest light that we have here on planet Earth. And so you're going to see that brightness through your eyelids. And because it's summertime, you're going to feel the warmth. Some of you are going to feel the warmth on your eyelids. You're going to feel it on your face. I want you to be present to this moment, because in our addictions, we are trying to numb and drown out all those things we can't hear, we can't see. That's why the holy man Yehoshua said, him who has ears, let him hear. He talks about people being blind. Paul, he was the apostle Paul in Christianity um, was a Pharisee. He was a Hebrew of Hebrews. And he was so educated that he couldn't see. And when he had his experience, scales fell off, and then God talking about giving new hearts and stuff. So when I tell them to be present to the moment, I'm asking them to just experience, use their senses that they've dulled, over in their addiction or in whatever way, just like the rabbi's talking about. So thought I'd share that too.
It's your natural self. It's how you were shaped and formed in 9 months of pregnancy. And then upon birth is right there with you in our early formative years until something changes that. In a healthy environment, that would be cultivated. But the fact of the matter is we live in a very material world. And the body, instead of being seen as a vehicle, suddenly becomes an end in itself. And now this still gentle voice, this subtlety, the innocence, that purity, that natural restlessness of the flame within you, the breath gets concealed, goes undercover. And we do everything possible to find it. One of the ways we seek it's through love, intimacy. These experiences are all really looking and seeking for that lost rosebud, for that lost innocence, for that lost breath. So yes, we continue to breathe, but then we become defined by what the circumstances around us, instead of your real essence of who you truly are. So the Kabbalah of meditation would dictate and expect of us, and I say dictate, I mean that in a positive way, would say that the key thing is to get back to your natural self. We're not looking to superimpose something. Think of a garden. You plant seeds and you nurture it and you water it. You cultivate it, the flowers will grow. You'll need to weed it. But if you allow the weeds to grow and you allow other forces to take over and you don't protect it, what will happen? So the natural flowers will be overrun by the weeds, by rodents, by predators that will not allow it to grow properly. The same is in this world. The material world is a challenging world. I'm not even getting now to predators and abuse and hurt and criminal intent. The very fact that we live in a material world and that soul is concealed creates the illusion that the soul is in the back somewhere. It's a secondary thing. The truth is we should never forget about our soul. It's something that should be constantly aware, we should be constantly aware of, and it should be the driving force of your life.
So good. So good. Go back 5 seconds here. In Dakota Way, among the Ocheti Shakoi, I come from one of the council fires, the Sisitawa. So we're Eastern, we're categorized as the Santi. The ancestral elder teaching is that the most real thing is the spiritual, because it's the thing that continues on. It's the thing that's, even though I'm in the physical realm right now, I am in the material world right now, the thing that is the most real thing is the thing that continues forever. So my goodness, it takes a tribal religion to jar some of this stuff out of me. And the Hebrews, I don't know what tribe this gentleman's from, but there were 12 tribes of Israel. And so it takes a tribal people to kind of jar that thing loose. And so if anything, I've said it around my relatives in Christianity that I believe that it needs to recapture some of its tribalness so we can fully understand what the life our teacher has told us, or our way of being he wants us to emulate. Is he going to know us? Is he going to know us by the way, because we lived like him? Is he going to know us? So I think that's tremendously interesting that our relative is saying what he's saying right now. And that's what came to mind for me was this, to share that with you. Sorry, my keyboard here has got my attention. Let's continue.
And it should be the driving force of your life. So that in a nutshell is the concept. But now how do we get there? Now we're talking to adults.
Yes. Say that all the time to people in treatment. So, okay, then what? I'm telling you that there's a soul in you. Okay, then what? Well, how do we get connected? Well, Yehoshua kind of lends onto that. You came to yourself. The fact that, and I'm using this treatment program as an example, the fact that you came to yourself, your spirit came to you and held counsel with you, that the first step is there. It's connected, and so it's going to be interesting to hear what he has to say here. This is the first time I've got this far, 11 minutes. And so, because like I said, I feel like Christianity, especially Christianity in America here, needs to recapture some of its tribalness, if you will.
How do we get there when we're already so much consumed by, and as I mentioned, inundated and overwhelmed by the world around us? We have responsibilities and expectations and demands. Many of them may be healthy, many of them may not be. Someone asks you, who are you? Very often people will say, respond by giving you their business card. But that's what you do, that's not who you are. Well, we've been doing it so long, we think what we do has become who we are.
That's what you do, that's not who you are. Oh, I just saw this graphic. Let me see if I can find it. That kind of goes to this point, and it's about raising children. And so this person says, I think it's parents of TikTok. Yeah. So this is how it reads. Tell your child today, behaviors are what we see. Behaviors are not who we are. No matter what you do, you're the same lovable kid on the inside. I will always see the good in you. Oh man, if my relatives, my brothers and sisters, my aunts and uncles, my parents, my grandparents, because there are a lot of age groups that are caught up in chains of addiction too. They could get a hold of this, and that's my hope, is that Creator will bring them back to themselves and help them define themselves.
When it should be the other way around. Your inner identity, again, your soul, should define who you are.
Boo for ads. Boo for ads.
So the truth is, what I'm going to be sharing now is obviously for adults, for people who can listen to what I'm saying, to help us get back, to reclaim, to regain.
And he said it was a child too, remember? So Yehoshua says we have to become like children. So he's calling us back to ourselves, back to our souls. Man, so good.
Our birthright, the natural soul, the beating heart within you, that should be your driving force. But my hope is that those of you that have children or will have children will help those children continue to maintain that connection so they don't lose it and then have to reclaim it.
So it has to be modeled by us first. We have to live this way of being out. Oh man, I wish I would have did a better job with my adult sons. I can't change that. I can't change the past, but I can be different moving forward, and that's what I've been trying to do, and that's what I share with my relatives that are trying to get sober, that are caught up in the chains of addiction, whatever those are. I think it's really interesting that in the 12 steps you're called to a way of being. Not a way of doing, a way of being. A human being. You're a human being. So we need to kind of like weed past the cliches of it, wherever people group in on whatever subculture, and get back to some of these simplicities and these teachings. I like what this rabbi's where he's going. I know he's getting. We get about 20 minutes in, and it looks like a lot of people are liking what he says here. So I'm really looking forward to see what he has to say.
And that is by, in a sense, going through these meditations and these exercises that continuously reinforce the natural soul within every child.
kind of lends itself also to, why it's important to have a sponsor. This person's been walking in this way for a while. They've been living out the 12 steps and the energy that's there and the teaching, and they're living out this way of being. We need to be around people that are doing that so we can kind of emulate them. We can imitate them. Like for those that are wanting to have a relationship with the Creator, they're imitating what they see the Father doing, what they see the everlasting Father doing. In Christianity, our one of our claims is that Jesus is the everlasting Father. I think it's in Isaiah where that prophecy is taught. But we need to have sponsors. David talks about he who walks with the wise becomes wise. And so we need to be able to walk with those individuals and get some wisdom from them. These elders, these sponsors, these parents, like this gentleman's talking about, like the rabbi's talking about.
So for adults, it may be more difficult because we have to now go back and undo damage done or distortions or misconceptions or prejudices and biases. But that is true in everything in life. When you're innocent and a clean slate, it's easier to impress healthy habits. Once you've developed bad habits, it's harder to do so. So how do we do so? So let's break it into two parts, and I'll talk briefly about the third part, and that is our faculties divide into mind, cognitive faculties, we use our minds, and our emotional faculties. And they're very clearly distinct. The mind is contemplative, it's reflective, a healthy mind. It's objective. It allows us to look at something without yet thinking in terms of what is it in it for me. The emotions, exact opposite. They're impulsive, reflexive, and the emotions are all about my feelings for it. Am I attracted? Am I repelled? Am I loving it? Is it something not for me? When they work well together, the mind is like, think of it like a captain of a ship, and the emotions are the ship itself. They experience things. If you have a mind without a heart, it's like a computer. There's no experience. If you have a heart without a mind, it can be we can be misled, misguided. Because the emotions, you can get seduced, and the things can seduce our emotions and manipulate it, and so on. You really want a perfect combination and blend of these two. The third dimension, which is the superconscious, and I've discussed this in previous programs, is not something I want to focus on, but it's important to mention because when we align our minds and our hearts and our emotions toward that deeply focused soul within ourselves, it allows the superconscious to naturally flow as well. But the superconscious always remains behind the scenes. That's why it's called superconscious. We're not conscious of it. So basically, healthy conscious living, healthy cognitive conditioning and emotional conditioning
Fruit of that forbidden tree, whose mortal taste brought death into the world.
and we'll also talk about behavioral conditioning, which means bringing it into action, that allows the superconscious to flow properly. Again, for young children, before they've been jaded in any distortions, that's all happening naturally without any effort.
And that is why in Dakota, Lakota way, they believe, my mother's people believe that from the age of like when conception happens, to the age of 7, around 7, is that connection is still there, because the child hasn't been jaded yet by its environment. That connection is still there to the spiritual realm, and so there's sometimes when children will just say things, and it's just fascinating. You're like, what the heck? You're looking at loved ones like, what did they? They'll say, things like spiritual things that will just catch your attention. Like, how are they how did they know that? Oh, grandma said, or so and so, and you're just kind of like, wow. So I love the fact that the rabbi is highlighting this here. Not specifically, but that's how I receive it.
We want to go back to that mode, but we're going now as adults. So it's more deliberate. It's an effort. It's not just something just like you talk to someone who's older and their breathing is difficult, or they're not using their entire lungs. They need to figure out ways to exercise, to clear out the toxins, to open up the channels. For a newborn child or for a young child, that may not be necessary. But we're trying to regain that purity and that innocence. Think of it like freshly fallen snow, after it's trampled on, is no longer white and pure. But we want to reclaim and regain that. So meditation, in the Kabbalah of meditation, there's actually two types of meditations, two categories, I should say. One is cognitive, that's focusing with your mind on something. And the second is emotional meditation, which is more complicated because emotions don't use the mind, but the mind can lead the emotions to also be focused. What I'm saying is basically that if you leave things to emotions, as much as you're concentrating on something, if the phone rings or someone comes by or something attracts you, you can suddenly leave it all behind and just be drawn to whatever your emotions are drawn. You're hungry, you're thirsty. But in a healthy process, what you want to do is you have the mind create an oasis, a focused state, a mindfulness state where you're present and not being distracted, and then open the door up for your emotions to have similar focus. So your feelings are aligned with your mind toward this inner soul of who we are. Sometimes it's described of focusing on the unity, the integral unity that connects everything, which is essentially saying the same idea that the soul is a connector. So in the process of the Kabbalah of meditation, you find these two different categories, and the truth is they work together hand in hand. Maybe interesting for you to note that the concept of prayer actually is very much about emotional meditation, driven by contemplative meditation. So even though
Again, some of the folks, like I think it's Thomas Merton. Let me make sure. I want to make sure that I'm getting the author right. So if you that watch this, whenever you watch this, you can go and check these resources out for yourself. Let me see. Contemplative prayer. Why is it not showing up? Oh, I chose the wrong thing. Contemplative Prayer by Thomas Merton. And so when the rabbi said that, it reminded me of, so it's a form of meditation. Prayer is a form of meditation, using your mind, contemplative prayer. Man, so good. And I try to offer these as things to consider. I don't tell them that they need to do these 12 things, do these 14 things, do these 7 things, do these. I just say this is something for you to consider.
we think of prayer sometimes of saying thanks and gratitude, or opening our hearts to God and ask for what we need, or prayer in time of crisis. But it's much deeper than that. Prayer is equated, the Kabbalah teaches, the Kabbalists teach, with song and music. And as such, it's more than just reaching out. It's actually an emotional conditioning.
With song. I love that. I have an adult son, and I got this teaching from our Jewish relatives that my adult son died from a fentanyl overdose May 18th of this year. And the reality is that he's alive. He's the soul continues on. He's alive, and I parent him the same way, even though he's not with me on planet Earth. I parent him, and I be a good dad. And so when the gentleman's talking, he's talking about this. I want to go back 5 and or maybe 10. Let me just see if I can get.
Teaches, the Kabbalists teach, with song and music.
So song and music, the thing that keeps coming to me as of late was the song that was sung at my son's funeral, and it's sad, and I'm going to do my best here. Makpiato dokia ya dokia ya nitaku yeki ochichi ye below cheawa ue o techi kelohe. The words are, blue sky, that was his Dakota name. Blue sky, where have you gone? Let me read it. And thank you for your patience with my refiring up this. I had all of this. I have all this gear here, but I was just so busy, and my son when my son made the journey, we had to we had to kind of process all that, and here I am now. This came to mind, and I'm listening to myself. So here are the words: Mahpiato dokia iaye, my friend, or it would be blue sky. Where have you gone? Where did you go? Dokia iaye. Where did you go? And then Nitaku ye ki ochichi ye below. Your relatives are looking for you. Cheya wa ue. I come crying. Cheya wa ue. I come crying. O te hike lohe. This is a really difficult time. I've been having a tough time crying, and so this song has been good because it's been helping me. And so for those of you that would watch this at a later time and be like, I'm not these tears now that are coming. It's good that they're coming. If they fall, they fall. If not, it's okay too. But I've stuffed my emotions for 49 years, and I'm having a hard time crying these tears. And when they come, I'm trying to welcome them so they'll fall. But this song, this prayer, this song, this talking has been good for me, and it's been helping me in my grief and in my sorrow. So,
And as such, it's more than just reaching out. It's actually an emotional conditioning. It says, what is the service of the heart? Prayer. So the word prayer can be a misnomer, can be misunderstood. That's why prayer, really, the word for it in Hebrew is avoda, to serve, service, dedication, commitment, where you're taking all of yourself and focusing emotionally toward your calling, toward your soul's calling. So that's why you'll find there's the concept of hidbonanut, which is a contemplative meditation, pondering, contemplating, thinking, focusing with your mind. And once you create that environment, then you begin to pray. That's how the Talmud puts it, because then you can bring your emotions in. It's not easy to just get the emotions focused if your mind is not focused. If your mind is racing or distracted or being drawn here and there, your emotions are just not going to have that direction. Like I said, the captain of the ship.
There's something deeply wrong with the way we put tasks on a to-do list. And here's why. It's ongoing.
So with that said, let us actually do and discuss an actual meditation, Hidbonanut, as well as on a cognitive level, as well as on an emotional level. And then we'll connect it to song, because song has a natural ability, more than the words. I'm speaking right now. Even if it resonates, it's still something is not there, because words are words. If you really want to get into that meditative state, the Kabbalah insists you need to have song. So what I'm going to do now is go through a contemplative and emotional meditation, and then conclude with a song that captures this experience. And this is just one of many, but it's a good beginning if you've never done this before, or if you're a expert in this exercise. In this method. Expert may not be the right word, because the more you do it, the more you realize you're not an expert. But whether it's something you've never done before, something you've done you're very accustomed to, used to and accustomed to, this, I believe, will be something that is enlightening for all of us, including myself. So what I'm going to focus on is a morning, you can say it's a meditation, it's a prayer in the context that I said it, but it's not just words. It's not just an idea. And it focuses exactly on what we were discussing, your soul.
I really like this idea. I'm pleasantly surprised if you can't if you picked up on that already. The fact that he's talking about the importance of song and its connection to prayer.
So we say in the Hebrew, I'll first say it in the Hebrew, I'll translate and explain, and then go through the meditation and do it on two parts, the contemplative part, the cognitive part, and the emotional part. And the goal, as I said, is that will allow the superconscious to emerge. And that will be experienced through pure serenity, through calm, through a deeper calm, that you don't usually experience in the hectic life that we live. So the prayer or the meditation is called Moda'ani, which literally means thank you, gratitude. So that alone, we know gratitude already is a powerful force when you say thank you. Recently, psychological studies show how gratitude is such a tremendous force that actually increases life expectancy, eliminates different levels of stress. So we begin Moda'ani, which is thank you. Thank you. And I'll say the Hebrew, Moda'ani lefanecha. I thank you. I submit to you. I acknowledge to you. And doesn't say to whom? Lefanecha. Which can also mean to the inner you. The word pnim in Hebrew, fanecha. So Moda'ani lefanecha, melech chai v'kayam. The living and eternal king. Interesting word here. King meaning an authority, something greater than ourselves. But not authority in a negative sense, but accepting, surrendering, dissolving into a presence that's higher than ourselves. And for returning my soul to me, that you have returned my soul to me, with much compassion and faith. I'm going to be focusing on the words returning my soul to me. So when we're asleep, well, obviously our soul is still working, just like our heart is beating, but everything slows down. The conscious faculties are not really functioning in a way that we're aware of. It's at the minimal. So what happens to that living soul, that vitality, that energy that we have once we wake up? So the soul, in a sense, recedes and goes back to its source. Think of a flame or sparks coming out of a hot coal, receding back into the coal. So the soul goes back to its natural place, and in the morning we're acknowledging that to basically say, thank you for returning my soul to me. Remember, the word neshama also means the word breath, because breath is an expression of the soul. It's the divine breath within you that is now re-emerging in a conscious way as you awake, and you're focusing on it. Something we do every morning. So here's the meditation. Close your eyes, take in a few breaths, focus with your mind. Let's start with our minds. The cognitive focus on the soul within you. You're not focusing on your functions. You're not focusing on your arms and legs and ears and eyes and taste, touch, and smell. In a way, you're almost closing down your senses. Imagine if you closed your ears, your eyes, your ears, your taste, touch, and smell. So what are you left with? A certain inner force. Being that breath is the very word for soul, so breathing helps you focus on that because you go within and realize there's a whole force within you. That subtle, silent voice, that quiet voice, quietude. The more you can create that space, and it doesn't necessarily have to take time, you're entering that space through your breath, through your soul. Once your mind focuses on that, then allow yourself to feel it, which would mean not focusing on what am I going to eat for breakfast or what am I going to do next, but allowing your emotions to feel that.
I have to add here, the holy man Yehoshua, also known as Jesus, says that the kingdom of God is within us. That came to mind as he's talking about, when he was sharing the meditation in the Hebrew. It was just like, he's talking about it, and when I imagine that maybe that's what some of the Eastern religions are getting at, that meditation in its truest sense is just to be present and to be quiet and to experience the true self. And hearing it from a Hebrew Jewish point of view has been really good. Because it's been reminding me of my mother's tribe, of the tribe that I'm part of. Also, I did an ancestry.com test, and it said that the majority. My mother was full blood, so the majority of that blood is in me. But I have my father's blood in me too. It's really diluted because he came from so many different people. So my mother's blood is like 49. It's like 49%. I don't know how they figure it out, but it's like 49% indigenous North America. So, but his words have been really good here because it's reminded me of my people many times. It's reminded me of my people when it comes to fellow Christ followers. It's reminded me of the people I live with here, the 5 reservations that make up where I live here in North Dakota, and the many subcultures that I'm a part of.
I am a soul. I'm unique. I'm indispensable. That's really what you're saying thank you for. Thank you for giving me life. Thank you for making me unique, for making me indispensable. Which takes us to the next step where you say, I have a mission that's unique to me.
Here we go again, where we're asked to pick the lesser of two evils, plug our noses, and cast our vote.
No one but I can accomplish what that mission is because it's unique to your own soul. That's the focus, and that is the meditation. And it has to have a cognitive side to it and an emotional side to it. The emotional side is the commitment to it. That's not just an idea, oh, it's an interesting thing that I have to have a soul and it was returned to me. No, it's who you are. It's what drives you. It gives you purpose. It gives you a sense of urgency, a sense of direction and guidance. This can be 1 minute, it can be 2 minutes. But when you do it properly, what you go away with is, in the morning, before you're doing anything else, you've established your hub, your mission statement you've declared, which in turn will inform all the spokes and all the details of your life, instead of the other way around. Because now that soul is going to express itself through the vehicle of your body and your activities, whatever they may be, and whatever involvements or commitments or endeavors that you're involved in throughout that day are all informed by this central hub, the breath of your soul.
Such practical, such a good practical teaching, practical advice that can be applied to, like I said, the relatives that I know that are working on trying to get sober in among the recovery and sobriety community. Such good practical things to apply now in the moment, when the day of evil comes or the storms of life and tribulations come. Such a good thing, beginning right away in the morning. I have this habit, and it's a combination of a lot of things. The Catholic relatives, Orthodox relatives, they talk about consecrating your body. The Orthodox do in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. They go right to left. Catholics go the left to right, but in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. I was doing that for a while. I don't think I've done it the past several months, but I've directed my first thoughts to the Creator. I'll turn off the alarm and I'll just kind of like, thank you. Like the gentleman says, like the rabbi's teaching. And I make sure that my first thoughts, my first words go to the Creator. So many things that He's reminded me of. And so I am grateful for this. I'm going to continue to watch it. It's still got like a well over, it's a 42 minutes, 23 seconds. So it's still got a lot of time. I'm going to watch this, but this has been my first test stream back. Like I said, I have all the equipment and I do recording and I do Zoom calls and things like that. But I wanted to start putting out stuff because people were asking at this treatment center, are you going to start putting things on YouTube? Because they want to know, I don't give them the strict, rigid evangelical point of view, the strict, rigid, Catholic way, Orthodox way, Lutheran way, whatever you can think of in Protestantism and all its various flavors. Interesting, the Orthodox believers, hold on. The Orthodox say that the Pope, back in when the Great Schism happened, was the first Protestant and those that followed him. So, but just interesting points of view. So whatever it is, whatever faith tradition, I think that each one of them has has some really good ways to talk about the creator and experience the creator. And I'm going to listen to some of those things. And instead of trying to argue, we've done enough arguing. And I think that that's what I want to give my relatives that are trying to get sober is, hey, take this into consideration and see if it helps you. Hey, as the old Tony Horton said in P90X when it was popular, uh, do your best and forget the rest, or take what you like and take what you like and leave the rest, or something like that. Is I heard a Dakota woman from Spirit Lake say, there are good things. She said she spoke it at a United Tribes Technical College commencement keynote. She said, there are good things among our non-native relatives. Take the good and leave the rest. Take the good and leave the stuff that you don't like. Leave it. And so I felt like this was listening to this and then offering my 2 cents and how I see it with my journey leading up to this. I just turned 50 this past year, this past summer, and so I have entered into the 7-year cycle, the 7-year phase of where I bring all that together to get ready to become an elder. And so when people at treatment programs and group and stuff are saying, hey, can you think about start putting stuff into YouTube? This is just a way for me to serve. This is just another place for me to serve. And so I'm going to do that. I have many places where the creator wants me to be involved and wants me to do and wants to work through me. And so I need to be a good relative and do those things. And so that's what I'm going to try to do. Um, I'm in a season of mourning. I'm shaving my head. Asked the barber yesterday to take it all the way down. It was just listening to myself. I was listening to this TikTok, and the gentleman was, I don't know, giving somebody a reading. I think he's into numerology or something. Anyways, he looks at the gentleman and he sees, he's got this long flowing hair, and he says to him, um, he goes, your numbers mean this, and um, this means this, and then he says, looks at him, and the gentleman has really long, beautiful, flowing hair. It's like curly and stuff, and this big, thick beard. And he says to him, you as a such and such, you store, as a such and such, and then he kind of segues into a greater, more kind of 30,000 foot view comment, and he said that we store stress in our hair. And the guy's like, okay, interesting, okay, gotcha. And he goes, no, you don't understand. Science is actually saying that we store stress in our hair. So I went to, and the fact that that came up for me in the algorithm delivered that to me in TikTok, I thought was tremendously significant. And so when I went to get my haircut, I was talking to the barber, and he said, and I shared that with him, and he said, that's what they believe is the cause of alopecia. The hair loss is stress. And I'm like, I'd never heard that. So now I got to go, now I got to go down that path. And so I'm an autodidactic. It's hardwired in me. When I am interested by it, I go learn about it. I'm not going to sit here and I'll read a book, maybe an audio book, or I'll go on YouTube, or I'll listen to some other content creators, whatever, but I'll go on. But the fact that it came to me that I should shave my hair the the day after my son's, it would have been his 28th birthday, is significant. I've asked for help. I've asked for the creator to help me. And so he's bringing me to myself, and I need to be grateful for that. And I am. The tears will come when they're supposed to come. I'm not going to learn this all right away. I've been stuffing my feelings and my emotions and for 49 years, because I thought that being positive was what the way making sure that everybody else is taken care of, being busy and concerned about much, like Martha, you know, Mary and Martha, and Martha's running around, and Jesus says to her, Martha, Martha, you're concerned. You're concerned about much. You care, or wait, you're busy and concerned about much. But what Mary desires will not be taken from her. And I'm paraphrasing here, but I've done that. Growing up in a chaotic environment of my childhood and my adolescence, and being a young man, all of that, I need to unlearn. And so I honor my son by living a different way. I'm working on another day. It's noon right now, um, noon in Central Time Zone on Thursday, December 19th, 2024, and I'm working on getting another day. In about an hour, right at the top of the next hour at 1 p.m. Central, I'll be inside of a sweat, traditional Finnish style sauna. And I'm looking forward to it because I'm trying to take care of myself. I'm trying to be a good relative. I'm trying to be a good dad to my son that has made the journey, and to my son that's here on planet Earth. And I'm trying to be my oldest son that's here on planet Earth, and I'll be a good papa to my grandchildren. And so I'm trying to live this way of being here. So I'm just doing the best I can. But I thank you for watching this whenever you watch it. This is the YouTube live way. I'm gonna have to record like one shot continuous recording stuff and start uploading those videos and putting them into playlists. But I just felt like if I got this started, it would be a good first step. And so I've taken the step, and I am happy with it, and I listen to myself, and that's the most important thing. So